Welcome back, Mex. How was the occasion being at the stadium?
It was a great occasion. Yeah, I was a little bit pessimistic, I will say, going to Mount Spartan instead of Eden Park. But I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. The proximity to the match itself gave us a feeling of being involved, actually, and being closer to the action and sort of sensing what was happening and how the feeling was. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and being surrounded, of course, by people at the All Black reunion. It just made it that much better. So it was great.
Look, just on that, I mean, a rectangle stadium for, to watch. I mean, that's why I think the one in Dunedin is the best rugby stadium we've got at the moment, followed by Hamilton, because, you are the close proximity to the ground. It's that old athletic park thing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I do understand what you're saying. There is a difference. I mean, I think the stadium in Wellington is a good stadium as well, but with the Oval, you are moving that those people between the two 22s, you're moving them further away from the game. But, when you go to the big stadiums overseas, Martin, if you go to Twickenham or Paris, you're going to get distance. It's inevitable because they hold 70,000 people. So, we're lucky in a way. All our grounds have closer proximity for the average man.
How excited were you after that performance, or are you not going to get too carried away by it?
Well, yeah, one swallow doesn't make a summer, but I will say that I'm very much encouraged by what I'm seeing. It's, in fact, it's a delight to see it. It looks like we're on track. We've got a lot to go yet. I think we've got to build more rhythm yet, but we're definitely moving in the right direction this year. I mean, the inconsistencies of the last 2 years or so are obvious for everybody. We've all seen them. They've had a sort of a restructure, haven't they, of their coaching lineup, and I think it's paying dividends. We're seeing a more improved effort, particularly from the front row, because that was a magnificent forward pack, the Springbok forward pack. And, we had that scrum under control, I thought. It was so steady as a rock for most of that game. And that's what you want from you want your scrum to provide a platform and to be stable possession that can be utilised, advantageously. And they did that. There's no doubt about that. We matched them in that area of the game. And in fact, when you look at the stats, I was thinking before the game, if we don't get 50%, we won't win this game, 50% possession. And we actually got 63% or 64% of possession. So that was a great achievement. And it was clever. It was clever the way they did it. I mean, the Springbok line-out is their strength. And we didn't kick anywhere near as much ball for touch. We kicked to regain. And I think we regained about 24 or 25% of the ball we kicked. So, great success, really, as far as strategic play.
The way we started playing at that pace, keeping the ball in play, not kicking it out deliberately, so we're just running them ragged off their feet. I mean, can we sustain that, though? Because we've seen a drop-off noticeable in the second half of both that test on the weekend and Argentina. We saw it against Australia in Melbourne. We had a lead last year and couldn't sustain it. Saw it against England as well. Is that pattern a worry, or am I making too much of it?
No, I think it's a fair comment, Martin, but... and we've only got, what have we got? 1, 2, 3 games to go.
Yeah.
So, one step at a time, in my opinion. At the moment, we're not the perfect package. Are we good enough at the moment to win the Rugby World Cup? No, we're not. But we're definitely showing the signs of a much improved team. And provided the team is selected pretty consistently, in other words, not changing too many combinations, sticking together, playing that team. It might be a sort of a team of 19 or 20 or something like that, playing those guys together so they get more and more rhythm. We can only get better. So, you know, I think we're definitely trending in the right direction. Yeah, Mendoza was a good start, a really good start, because it's hard to play in places like that. And then we've followed it up in the weekend against probably the best opposition you could play against. So, you know, it's we're heading in the right direction, in my view.
All Black legend Murray Mexted is with us with special emphasis on the loose forward trio. Are you seeing now in Shannon Frizzell, after those two matches, what you've always wanted to see? And is that loose forward combination? Don't forget, of course, Papali'i came on for Sam Cane in that second half. Again, you're looking at more than three players, Mex. You've got to look at 4 or 5 here because they are interchangeable. Are you seeing what you want to see in your loose forwards?
Look, on the weekend, you'd have to say yes to that. Particularly Shannon Frizzell. Now, my criticism, it's not criticism really, but my concern was Frizzell was a little bit hot and cold. You know, he was outstanding on occasions, and then he sort of went very quiet for a while there. And sometimes that was happening in a game. And really we need our 3 loose forwards to be real active for 80 minutes in every game. And we saw that from Frizzell this weekend. So I was delighted to see that. He looked every bit the All Black number 6 that we've been waiting for. You know, he's good in the line-out, and he was powerful with the ball in hand. I mean, he beat players, he created, he could go forward. He was terrific. Yeah, he was a complete package actually in the weekend, and I hope that he can continue like that. And if so, that's sort of sorting out one of our problems. Obviously, we haven't settled yet on that loose forward trio, but it's one of the areas that they're yet to resolve. And Frizzell makes it easier to pick the team, that's for sure.
Mex, it's too easy on my side of the microphone and being a fan to get, too far ahead. You look at a couple of games like that and think, bring on the rest of it and things. But as you say, we've got 3 to go. We've got that match against France to open the World Cup. And then we've got a bit of a lull, opponents that we will beat. We are expected to beat, we will beat. Then you get into the knockout phase. So I guess the question, long-winded question is, what do we take from it, and how much of this can we bank ahead of the World Cup? Because ultimately when it comes to a knockout quarterfinal match, that result on the weekend doesn't count. We all know that. But it's got to count for something. That's what I'm trying to get at. What is it?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair question. You see, because most of these Northern Hemisphere teams will have played, 6 nations, and they should have a bit of rhythm. They should have built a bit of rhythm, exposed a few things, got them right. That's what happens when you play a season. But this is our number 2 game, isn't it? So we're a long way off our best, in my view. And 2 games against Australia, I think will sort out their final positions. They haven't quite sorted out the midfield backs yet. The way Will Jordan played in the weekend, you'd have to say he secured himself a position on one wing, hasn't he?
Well, or fullback. We don't know whether, should he be playing where Bowden is? That's the other question.
Well, I think Bowden Barrett had the best game I've seen him play for a long time.
There you go.
I thought he was absolutely outstanding. Do you know, in the old days, when men were men, Marty, there used to be, the thought used to be, play your most dangerous player at fullback, because there's more opportunity for the fullback than anyone else. Now, I felt in the weekend watching Bowden Barrett play at fullback, I thought, that he was making great decisions and he was having a go. He was opening up the gas tank when it was time to open it up. He just to me looked like the Bowden Barrett of old. And the way he interchanged with Moanga at 10, being standoff really, I suppose, on occasions. They have to do that today, and especially if you've got a game plan where you're looking to move the ball consistently, then there needs to be that rotational situation with Moanga. And Moanga played so much better than I've seen him for a while, against the best opposition. You can only rate players against the best opposition, and that's where I had a question mark with him. It was against good opposition, and I thought he had an outstanding game. And his consistency of kicking goals too was tremendous. So, No, I think after the weekend you'd have to play Mo'unga again at 10 and Barrett again at 15 and Jordan again at 14 because they all played so well in that position. You'd have to play them again like that, you know.
All right, finally, mate, you're there on the sideline. You're there in person. I just want your impression of the size and the power of those Springbok forwards, because this is what we had to negate. This is what we had to combat. This is what we actually had to physical up against. And I'm so glad you mentioned that we matched them set piece, because we did. But watching those guys come off the bench, they are giants, aren't they?
They're big men. They're huge. Yeah, they have been for years, I will say. You know, they breed them big, don't they, those Afrikaans forwards? And they're big and strong and powerful. There's no doubt about it. But strategically, I think we were very clever. And it came off. It doesn't mean it's going to come off all the time. And the other thing is, you know, we've criticised this French referee in the past.
Yes.
You know, he's cost us a bit, I thought. But to give him credit, he did allow the game to run a little bit, which was fantastic for everybody to observe. I mean, it was a great game of rugby. There is no doubt. Whether the referees at the World Cup will allow the flow as well as that, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But when it was flowing like that, it was a pleasure to watch. There's no doubt. And you could see combinations developing, and people were aware. Some of those passes out of the back of the hand, they all seemed to find their man, didn't they?
They did.
And when they find their man, you can't say it's a coincidence. And it's 2 weeks in a row. I take your point that it wasn't an 80-minute effort, but I think you have to pay credit to those big roosters that came on at half-time. I mean, they've got a nickname, haven't they?
Bomb Squad.
They call them the Bomb Squad, yeah. And I mean, it's a bit of a classic, really, but they're powerful, and that did make a difference. We made a change too with Sam Cane as an out-and-out open side, and I thought that the counter-ruck of the Springboks for the first 10, 15 minutes in the second half was obvious. And I thought, you know, we probably needed Sam Cane and his focus on the ball in the opening of the second half, because Papali's a slightly different rugby player. He's not that hunter and gatherer that we expect from the open side. He's a powerful guy with the ball in hand, and his defence is good too. But they're different footballers. But then we clawed back, and we had fight to get back in. We had the right game plan to get back into the game. And, you know, at one stage there, with about 20 minutes, 25 minutes to go, it was anybody's game. It was only 7 points of difference, and we were the ones that came back and scored the try to open it up again. So, you know, you'd have to say it was a very successful night, but it's, you know, we're still a long way off our best, and probably a long way off having a team that's got enough rhythm to win the Rugby World Cup. You know, 3 hard games in a row, providing you win the first one, the quarter-final, which will be bloody tough. Then you've got a semi and a final. So, you know, we've got a bit of growing to do yet. It's not all a bed of roses, but we're definitely looking right.
Devlin.
Thanks, Mex.
The platform.